Redditors, what did the teacher get fired for at your school? He turned up to school hungover 2 days a week and stoned the other 3. The students all loved him, but he didn't teach shoot. He wasn't a teacher when I knew him, but this guy I went to school with ended up working there as a music teacher after we graduated. He was the band director, I think. Anyways, he would have the girls in band changing in out of their uniforms in one of the classrooms while the boys changed in another. Apparently practice was pretty physically demanding, so all of the girls would change from regular bras into sports bras. One day a girl noticed a laptop on the desk open with a camera connected and pointing right to where they changed. Thinking it was odd, she notified another teacher, who contacted someone in IT to log into the laptop and make sure nothing fishy was going on. Well, they logged in and found GBs upon GBs of video files of girls changing in that room for the past 5 years. He's now serving 19 years in a state penitentiary. Hid a camera in his gym bag pointed at the boys' changing room showers. He went to prison. This gained far more traction than I thought it would. It saddens me that so many people have guessed different places. I don't really want to say where it was, but I will say it wasn't in the US. He was still in prison by the time I left school and was registered as a Shrek's offender, so yeah, his teaching days are over. This was during Zoom, so classes were totally online during this. Teacher was caught wonking it while his camera was on. Kid recorded it and posted it to YouTube. Dude's teaching career was over pretty quick after that. Had a high school teacher overhear an overweight girl talking about committing suicide. Instead of getting her help, he told her and the whole class that the rope would break anyway. Teacher was fired that same day for passing out drunk in the middle of class. He passed out. Student ran to the office to get the principal, and when she came in she couldn't wake him, so she called paramedics. Then she sniffed his coffee mug and started going through his desk and pulled out a bottle of vodka. Worst part was, his daughter was a student there. Spanish teacher at my school was involved in the largest psychedelic mushrooms bust in the history of the state of Ohio. Never would have guessed. He wasn't fired, but he was asked to resign after his arrest. Apparently he got coked up and fist-fought a guy at a Disturbed concert. Had a math teacher who used to teach at a different school that my brother went to. She was an amazing teacher at that school, but apparently told my brother's class she used to do drugs. When she taught at my school, she would come in late, never teach, just have study halls, and give the students worksheets with no explanations. We're all pretty sure she relapsed, and she was fired halfway through the year. Our assistant principal was caught banging the female security guard doggy style up against his desk by 2 students that walked in unannounced. His wife left him and they were both fired. They now both live together. She had apparently been doing this for a while, but this girl was the first one to report it. She taught home economics. While studying childcare, she would demonstrate stuff for us. How to feed a baby, burp a baby, change their diaper, calm them down. She demonstrated this on one student, instead of a doll. It was really bizarre. At one point she had the student in her lap and simulated breastfeeding her. He was standing by his living room window in an open bathrobe while an elementary school bus took a detour past his house. Compare that to the teacher who got in a fist fight with a 3rd grader in 1988 and still teaches there now. Middle school. She shoplifted over $1,000 worth of stuff, mostly jewelry, from the department store Kohl's. Was caught clear as day on security cameras. It was one of those things where you never would have imagined her doing something like that. But after it happened, we really weren't that surprised. High school. Student didn't understand the directions to something, and teacher responded by saying, "What? Are you on the spectrum or something?" Turns out the student was indeed on the spectrum. Surprisingly, the teacher wasn't fired right away, but he got sent over to teach at the middle school. Not even a year later, same teacher made fun of a student for smelling bad and wearing the same outfit 2 days in a row. Turns out that student was living in a van with his mom and didn't have access to a shower/laundry service every day. Teacher obviously got fired after that. Still blows my mind he wasn't fired the first time. He was exposed as part of a huge prostitution sting operation and was recorded trying to negotiate services with two very young Jules undercover detectives. When he was arrested, he was a high school chemistry and very involved in the community. It divided the church, school and community and obviously heavily affected his family, which is all I should say, because they deserve their privacy. There was considerable gossip about him and his wife divorcing and her leaving him town very shortly after ridding herself of his crap. Not fired, but suspended for the rest of the year, because he made a comment about having a threesome with the music teacher and her dog. The joke was the music teacher had a bad habit of talking about her dog a lot, but the administration didn't find it very funny. Gonna go in a different direction than most responses. One of my middle school science teachers, he was a good teacher, but wasn't the friendliest guy, so most of us didn't like him very much. At some point after I had graduated high school, so, in the 90s, he took his disabled, widowed mother in, listed her as his dependent, and added her to his very good, union-negotiated, health insurance. At some point the district and/or the insurance company found out, and he was fired for insurance fraud, or something or other. I never liked the guy, but what the district did to him was wrong on many levels. The PE teacher and science teacher banged the math teacher. She replaced all the school lunches with only cheese sandwiches, and things got so progressively worse from there that my school had a sit-in. People got arrested. The school had to hire a bunch of cop SWAT to surround the building in case of a riot. And then everyone got sent home early. She lasted only a year at the school for causing so much chaos. Her famous line was, "You get what you give," and at the sit-in someone retorted, "You get what you give." But I don't remember giving anyone a cheese sandwich. Best thing that came out of that whole shoot show was this iconic line. Teacher let a student borrow her phone to call their parents. The student went through her phone and found some nude or revealing photos of her and sent them to friends. The teacher was fired and I feel bad for her. Called a 13-year-old a prostitute for wearing her skirt too short. A teacher was asked to leave after having sex with a student, who was the daughter of another teacher. She was 18, so it wasn't illegal, but definitely frowned upon. She flashed her teeth at a Metallica concert and someone got a picture of it and started passing copies of the photo around the school. As far as the teacher's reaction, she was neither ashamed or embarrassed about the pictures. She even told all of her classes, one of which I was in, that being we were all juniors or seniors in high school, she was sure we had all seen a set of naked breasts and seeing hers isn't a big deal to me and shouldn't be to any of you either. After that, she didn't talk about it. As for being fired, I don't know for sure if she got fired or was asked to transfer, but she was no longer teaching at my school the next year. Her kid hid his drugs in her classroom closet. Kid was always a troublemaker and got expelled. And of course she was fired, all hush-hush. But everyone knew what was really going on. She knew he was hiding stuff in there. And when it was found, apparently she started crying. Really sad, actually. 2 teachers went on the 8th grade school trip to an amusement park, and while there, they were seen drinking beer at lunch. It got back to the school and they were canned for making one altar boy poke the other altar boy in the testicles with pins while he watched. Not joking. Pretending to shoot kids with a fake gun during a lockdown drill. He molested middle school girls. It was his trial that awakened lawmakers to change the statute of limitations laws in Michigan and help put Larry Nassar away for so long. If the rumors are true, he told an African American student to go back to Africa. So, I got in huge trouble. You see, the previous day the teacher had advised all students that the following day there would be a show and tell of sorts, but the goal was to bring something the presenter was certain no one else had ever seen. I had no clue what I could bring, so I asked my dad, who really appreciated historical things and was excited to show me a drum roll grenade. Now, this was a dude. It had been drilled out and no fuse existed, so the mechanism could not detonate, but it had been at one point. A very real grenade. So the next day in my very small Canadian town, on a typically quiet street, at a mostly calm schoolyard, there were over a dozen service vehicles. A SWAT team no one knew existed, and a hybrid tank battering ram vehicle thing we are still not sure how the town procured. About 40 minutes before all this, I was being dragged by my shirt collar to the principal's office by my teacher while she held the grenade in the other hand, almost as though she was displaying it and also disgusted by it. She paraded me and the grenade in front of so many students. Panic ensued. The bomb squad eventually identified the grenade as harmless. My teacher was discharged. I was suspended for 2 days and my dad went to bat for me. Good times. Every year for MLK Jr. Day, the school called in a former professional football athlete and local men to talk about what it was like to grow up in the Deep South during segregation and the racism he experienced. This man was also a pastor and the founder of the 2 largest anti-gay hate groups in the state. This teacher asked him during the Q&A portion of the assembly, "How can you go around talking about the horrors of racism while you operate these 2 bigoted groups? Isn't that hypocritical?" That question was never answered. It caused a total meltdown and scandal. There were protests outside the school for days and she was forced to resign. She was my favorite teacher before she asked the question. She was even more my favorite after. Half of our teachers did drugs and the other half were having shreks with students, but no one cared. Only one teacher got fired, and that's because he had a very strong Asian accent and all the kids complained that they couldn't understand him and made fun of him, when in fact he taught the class with the smartest math students and everyone could understand him. He was outstandingly cheerful and always happy and supportive.